Welcome to Bump Set Chat, the podcast where volleyball professionals come on and share their stories, experiences, and advice. And today, from Music for Hawaii, I have Kurt Nursterer. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Barry. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. And the way we start things off is we do a few random questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. In a heated chess match, who would win, you or Keone?
Me for Keone knows Keone's chess knowledge is he knows where the pieces go, but he doesn't know strategy. So that's an easy win, I think.
Okay. All right. And if they played intro songs for volleyball players, what would your intro song be?
Probably some old school American rock and roll, Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle, something like that.
All right. And when you go back home in Indiana, what is that meal you look forward to the most?
So I haven't been back to Indiana in 3 years. My parents have actually moved from there.
Oh, okay.
Um, but if I were to go back each summer, they've got those fairs, the state
Hmm.
fair, county fair, and they have those funnel cakes, and those are pretty hard to come by out here. So I love going home and getting some of those.
All right, there we go. And then final question, what is one TV show or movie you watch way too often?
The Office, guaranteed. I could probably quote that thing like the back of my hand, and regardless of what I'm doing, that's good background noise.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of state fairs, what do they do out there in Hawaii for state fairs? I'm always curious.
So I think they do have a state fair, but the big event here is like the Punahou Carnival. So that's put on by one of the private schools, Punahou, and all the money raised from that goes to support athletic scholarships for the students that go there. It might be need-based and athletic
Yeah.
scholarships, but that's a really big event. I think Justin Bieber came out to it a
Oh,
couple of
wow.
years ago. So it's a pretty big deal. It draws a lot of attention.
Nice. But you miss out on the carny folk.
Yeah, and it's always in the middle of season, so I usually don't have a ton of time to
Oh,
go.
shoot.
And there's the county fair in southern rural farm town Indiana. It attracts some interesting people that the Idaho Carnival does not. So
Here we go. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast. And first of all, where are you from originally?
yeah, so I was born in Dusseldorf, Germany, and then I moved over to Columbus, Indiana, not to be mistaken with Columbus, Ohio. It's a town halfway in between Indianapolis and Louisville. So I usually just say I'm from Southern Indiana.
And, what are you taking at UH?
I'm studying finance.
All right. And now, where did volleyball start for you?
So that's an interesting question. So I grew up originally, I was playing a lot of basketball and soccer. My dad played pro basketball.
Oh, cool.
Um, and basketball in Indiana is super, super competitive.
Yep.
So between the pressure my dad was putting on me when I was a kid and how competitive it was in Indiana, it just wasn't for me. I was 6, 7 years old. I just wanted to go, play a game of horse with my dad, and he was having me do these layup
Oh,
lines and all
shoot.
that. So I'm sure later in life, as I got competitive with sports, I would have definitely appreciated the support he was giving me, but at that young of an age, it was not for me. So I played soccer, and then when I got to my freshman year of high school, one of my buddies, Colvin, he told me, "Hey, you should come check out this volleyball stuff." I
Hmm.
went, I hated it.
Oh,
My
no.
platform hurt so bad. I was horrible. So decided to try it out, and then I only played high school for 1 year. And then the next year, I decided, oh, this is fun. I like it. Why don't I try to play club? So my first time playing club was between sophomore and junior year of
Hmm.
high school. Finished dead last at club, not dead last, but
Yeah.
the emerald bracket of the club division. Pretty bad. And I fell in love with it. I loved it, and things kind of progressed from there.
All right. And now, where does boys volleyball rank in Indiana?
I don't think anybody knew it was a thing.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, so it wasn't, it recently became a state-sponsored sport,
Yeah.
which a lot of different states have been doing, and that's great. But when I was there, it was not. So a lot of the students that I went to school with, they didn't even know we had a men's volleyball
Oh,
team.
wow.
And it kind of has that reputation of, oh, you're kind of a loser. All the
Yeah.
cool guys, they play football, basketball, and baseball, whatnot. So it didn't get any attention at all, and it was basically non-existent. I would have, maybe 10 fans at the games, and
Yeah.
four of them were my family and friends. So
Yeah, it's no different out here in New England, Connecticut area. Very few schools have a boys volleyball program, and I think there's a stigmatism attached to it as well because it's just they really only see girls play it, and they don't see
yeah,
the guys play it. And I think part of it is if they really saw the men's game being played in these places where it doesn't exist, it would change a lot of people's minds and opinions of the game itself.
yeah, and I'll elaborate on that. I think no one that has actually tried and played volleyball hates it.
Yeah,
Everyone I know who's tried to play it loves it. So
yeah.
it's a fun sport to play. It's not like swimming where you hate it and it sucks. You're out of breath. You're in the cold. Volleyball's a lot of fun.
It
So
is. And especially as you get older, the social aspect of volleyball, whether you're playing co-ed, playing beach, there's just it's a great sport to get into and be a part of it throughout your entire life.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. So, during your high school, college, your high school and club season, when did, the potential of playing in college pop up?
So my junior year, that was I started club the summer. I went to nationals between my summer and junior year. And then I switched to a different club, which no longer, the men's program doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it's like club volleyball in Indiana is a joke.
Yeah.
So I went to this club called Circle City. It was a club team, horrible team, and they they had me playing in the middle, and I started getting recruited by some D3 schools in Indiana. It was like Wabash, Trine, just a bunch of schools that probably you would never have heard of. And then I actually got this interest from Campbellsville, which is an NAIA school, and they're actually really good for the NAIA. They were really good. It's in Campbellsville, Kentucky, and they offered me on a visit. It was the fall of my junior year, so I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll
Yeah.
come check it out. So I drove down by myself, checked it out, spent the night. I practiced with them. It was fun, but I was horrible. I was so bad. So interest really started picking up. They had this thing called the high performance. So this was before the USA Volleyball had the National Team Development Program, NTDP.
Yeah.
They had this thing called high performance, where at these big tournaments, one day before the tournament started, they would have like the USA team tryouts and whatnot. And as I grew older, I realized, most of the teams were already selected. This was just a way to raise money because,
Uh-huh.
150 bucks, you get a tryout, you get a shirt.
Yep.
Just a money grab for USA Volleyball. Everyone knows who was playing before. But anyway, I went there and no one really knew everyone. So I asked this guy to pepper. And it's funny, I played him recently. His name was Ian Little, for BYU, their lefty opposite. So I was peppering with him and I was like, okay, this guy's good. He's big. So I asked him, like, oh, are you going to play in college? He told me he was going to BYU, and I was like, "Oh, wow, that's like the Division 1 school." And sure enough, as the day went on, I found myself, comparing myself to these other people, and I
Yeah.
found out they had offers from this school and this school, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I might be able to have a shot to go play Division 1." So I started, getting more and more film. And then towards the end of that winter season for club, around February of my junior year, I started to get pretty decent.
Yeah.
I was one of the better middles, and I had some pretty good film. I'd only been playing club for, 8 months.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of potential, but I was horrible. I was
Oh no.
horrible. So I started emailing some schools, Division 1, and I started getting recruited by a lot, but nothing really stuck.
Yeah.
Uh, And then COVID hit. So, all of the NCAA recruiting shut down. All my visits to Division I
Oh,
schools were
wow.
canceled. I wasn't allowed to see anyone.
Yeah.
So at that point, I had, going into summer between junior and senior year, I had an offer from Hawaii, an offer from UCLA, and an offer from Pepperdine. And, Pepperdine and UCLA had money attached to it,
Yeah.
a good amount of money actually, and Hawaii was a walk-on spot. And I had, COVID hit, Stanford cut their program,
Yeah.
or announced they were going to cut it. And they were talking about eligibility, who's going to get another year.
Oh, wow.
So
So that
I
would have
know,
flooded all the whatever spaces were there for you were probably going to be gone.
yeah, so I totally panicked. I accepted the Hawaii offer without giving it any further consideration.
Yeah.
So I called up the Hawaii coaches. I was like, yeah, I'd love to come play for you guys. Um, so that I at least had that.
Yep.
And then as time kept going, things kept opening up. I kept getting better and better. I got a great offer from Pepperdine, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go play at Pepperdine. Malibu's a sick school. Pepperdine was really good. They had the head coach, David Hunt, at the time, who was an amazing person,
Yeah.
really personable guy. So I was like, maybe I want to go there. And so I called the Pepperdine coaches and I was like, hey, I'd love to come play for Pepperdine. So now I was in a tough situation
Oh,
where
boy.
the Hawaii schools thought I was playing for them and Pepperdine schools thought I was playing for them. So I had to call the Hawaii coaches, tell them, hey, that's not going to work out. Anyway, go into my senior year, and then I started getting, a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle, I feel like I was one of the better middles in the country at the time, but I was still a horrible, horrible volleyball player. I couldn't, pass the ball. I couldn't set the ball. My swing was horrible. Um, But then, the season for college volleyball started progressing in the spring of my senior year, and Hawaii was looking really good.
Yeah.
And they played against BYU in the stand, sold out crowd, 10,300 people. And I was thinking, that's where I want to play.
Yeah.
So I called up the Pepperdine coaches. I said, hey, I want to go play at Hawaii. And then I called up the Hawaii coaches and I was like, hey, remember me? Sorry, I said I was coming. I'm not coming. I think I'm gonna come. And then April, my senior year, so very, very late. April,
Wow.
my senior year, officially decided I was going to Hawaii. So it was a long story, but
Yeah.
that my wraparound way to end up here.
Now, had you been to Hawaii at all, or your first time to Hawaii was your first time, for your freshman
No, I
year?
had visited a couple of times, but I hadn't seen the facilities. I
Yeah.
hadn't met the team. I didn't have a single conversation with Charlie when I signed. I didn't know who Milan was. So
Oh
I
my
really
God.
went into things blind, and
Yeah.
I'm so grateful things worked out the way they did.
Yeah. Holy cow. And now that you've been there for a couple of years, what is the hook volleyball has on you that, it's turned into your sport?
So, I mean, I think one thing that really got me to buy into everything going on was the support from the community here.
Yeah.
The fans here are just unreal, and it's not like a celebrity type of thing. It's more like I'm in the grocery store checking out and someone's telling me, "Hey, good luck tonight."
Yeah.
Wherever I'm at in public, people will, wish us good luck. If I wear a shirt that says Hawaii Volleyball on it, there's benefits that come with that
Yeah.
within this community here. And I didn't take that lightly. I really recognized what an opportunity that was. And I saw the guys in front of me who were playing, and I knew that that's really what I wanted to be like. So, my freshman year, I bought in pretty heavily to the
Yeah.
grind and really decided that I wanted to, kind of have a legacy and, solidify myself here within this community and give back to what it had given me.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you talk about, you're a horrible player, horrible player. When did it click, or when, was there a big shift where you noticed a change in your skill, your volleyball IQ, or was it just, you just picked it up?
So I think the biggest kind of jump in my skill came from August my freshman year. I played 10 months straight at the university,
Yeah.
practicing every single day. I was getting extra reps every single day, working out. My grades were horrible, but I went all volleyball for 10 months of school. We played the final, we won the final at UCLA. Came back, took my finals the next day after we won. And then the very next day, so 2 days after we won, I flew over to Austria to play with the national team. And the day after I landed, we went to Hungary, playing games in
Oh,
Hungary.
wow.
And I played then another 4 months straight with the U22 team and with the like official national Olympic team, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then, got done late August in Austria after playing for 4 months straight, and then came over to Hawaii, where landed like September 1st. So I was late to get back to Hawaii and then played again for 10 months straight.
Yeah.
So I think just, touching the ball in a very competitive capacity every single day for that long was what really promoted that growth.
Yeah.
I mean, my freshman year, I still was not
Raw.
that great. Towards the end of my freshman year, I was looking better. And then over the summer with the national team, just playing,
Yeah.
you know, in a competitive environment with different coaching styles and playing with people, I was the worst in every gym I was playing in.
Yeah.
With the senior national team, I was bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
In UH gym, bottom of the barrel. And, that offers a great opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
And I had good guys around me who were feeding into me and guiding me. So, if it weren't for them and these mentors and these great coaches, just the culmination of all of that and, the work I put into
Yeah.
it helped lead to where I'm at today.
Wow. And that August when you came back from Austria, did Charlie Milan look at like, who's this kid? What happened to you? You know?
I think I think they recognized that I had gotten a lot better. Most of the UH guys, if they're not playing on the national team, they kind of take a summer off
Yeah.
and they come back a little raw, but we get back into it pretty quickly. So I think, they weren't like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be the next star.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that by any means, but I think it was more like, okay, if one of our starting middles goes down, we can put Kurt in
Yeah.
and we're not going to be cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might not be as good. He's not going to be an All-American ever, but we'll still have a shot at winning. It's not like we got to put one of our pin hitters in to play middle.
Yeah.
So I think that was more the mindset.
All
The,
right.
the
And I watched the video where you talk about like, you and Keone almost were in that same sort of like, we really, you have to put in the effort. And, there was just, when practice was over, you guys were still working on it. And, you were talking about how Charlie said that freshman year, you weren't very good. And
yeah. So we had a meeting and Charlie told me, he said, I was possibly the worst technical player we've ever had in the
oh
gym
my
ever.
God.
And he's right. He's totally right. He's completely right. But my freshman year, when I first got to campus, we had a meeting in the locker room. And it's every year at the start of the year, you have a big team meeting where the
Yeah.
coaches about the expectations, the rules for all the new guys, whatever. And he said, we have to justify our existence. And the last half of our practice is 6-on-6. So if you're not in the top 14, you're shagging balls, you're scrubbing the floors,
Yeah.
whatever. And me and Keone were not in that top 14 our
Oh,
freshman.
shoot.
So we both kind of came in on the C side, is how I call it.
Yeah.
And when we came back after the summer, in between our freshman and sophomore year, we were hoping to be on the B side. And
Yeah.
then on the B side, obviously we wanted to work our way up to the A side. So it's just the nature of, we were both going through the same thing at the same time. And it
Yeah.
was kind of an iron sharpen iron relationship and
Yeah.
going through the same stuff. that's what really bonded us. And I think that's why the fans can see why we're so close. That's why our friendship is so close.
Yeah.
We really kind of went through hell together there for a little
Yeah.
bit.
But good on you. You could have been fight or fly, and you stayed and you put it in because taking that, that you could have just like, hey, you could have checked out, but no, you stuck to it, and look where you are now.
Yeah, hitting zero most games, but whatever,
That's the
progress.
life of a middle, though. I think, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, no problem, dude. And looking back on that freshman year, what were some of the difficult things to deal with that first year?
I think, most freshmen, they come in, they've got some level of expectations. Everyone at a Division 1 level, at the top Division 1 level, just to get on the team, you've got to be good. You've
Yep.
got to be one of the best players in the country. So, you go from being the guy wherever you're at to
Right.
just be, pond scum. You're
Yeah.
unless you're some star freshman. For the most part, you come in and you're not a star player.
Yep.
So that was tough. That was a quick reality check for me. And then
But
it
not
was,
only you though, because a lot of players, like we were just talking about, you're leaving your club, you're playing your 18s, you're kicking butt, you're starting, and now that adjustment, you're in college, you're at a different school, you're away from home, and now you're not starting. That has an impact on anybody, I'm sure.
yeah. So I really valued that. And, now when we get a new batch of freshmen each year, I try to tell them about it. The importance of role playing and understanding your role. I embraced my role my freshman year. I feel like after I got the humbling I needed and I
Yeah.
got my ego totally stripped away from me and everything, I uh I really embraced that role, and I can confidently speak that, I put in the hours, I put in the time, and lived up to the role that I was put into, and that adds a lot of value to a team.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing the stuff that you're supposed to be doing and maximizing the opportunity that you're given, it pushes everyone to be better around you, regardless of if you're, the star player, the Jakob Tele, the Spyros, the Chaz. Even the bottom back half of the bench can just contribute so much from a culture point of view,
Yeah.
from a work ethic point of view, from an integrity point of view. So, learning that and the importance of that was big time. And,
Yep.
and the same's about to happen, as I go into working, I'll be
Yep.
the work wherever I work at. So I really think redshirting and being the worst in your gym is such a valuable life skill to have. And I'm really grateful for that experience.
Nice. And now, if you could go back to freshman Kurt, what advice would you have for them, for him?
I'd tell him to shut up a lot more. Um, and I would have done better at school. I had like a 3.0 my freshman year. Um, and that kind of, messed up my GPA long term.
Yeah.
But, it's fine now. But I definitely would have, taken academics a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Um, and then, well, I was in a relationship at the time, a long distance. I would have gotten out of that sooner. But other than that, I mean, I'm really grateful with how things went, and you know the things you do wrong is what you learn from.
Yeah.
You're kind of grateful for the things you did right, and you learn from the things you did wrong. So I really wouldn't change a whole lot.
All right.
I would have been quieter and shut up a little sooner, probably.
And so far, what have been some of the highlights of playing at UH?
I mean, just getting to know the people here. The culture in Hawaii is incredible. It's slower paced, it's relationship oriented. I think on the mainland, things are so competitive and, you scratch my back, I scratch your back, versus here, things are so much more neighborly
Yeah.
once you really get into the community and once you get to know some of the people here. And I love that so much. So, just getting to, when I work downtown now, and I'm just going to work and seeing amazing people that I know, and they say like, "Oh, watched your game last night. You did great."
Yeah.
That means the world to me. I'm humbled. I'm flattered because where I came from in Indiana, nobody cared. In fact,
You had your
yeah,
family in the crowd. That was it.
yeah. And in fact, it was the opposite. You kind of got, you got a little bit of crap for playing volleyball. So,
Right.
I'm just so grateful and humbled by the support we get here. And it's something that is hard to explain to some people at some other schools until they play here.
Yeah.
I really do think we have the best fans in the world, you know, from a attendance point of view, from a support point of view, whatever. Unless you're playing Poland, maybe
Yeah.
can compete. Maybe the Champions League in Italy, whatever,
Yeah.
in Italy, in the Olympics, obviously. But other than that, we'd have numerically, statistically, emotionally, the best fans.
That's where my next question was going to be. What is it like? What's that, what's the feeling or the vibe when you're playing at home?
It's it's so unique, and I still get nervous before every game,
Yeah.
whether it's in front of 4,000 people or 10,000 people. So, that's the interesting part. That's the part, tickets cost the same for every game.
Yeah.
It's like $25, which is a pretty expensive ticket
It
if you
is
have.
for any college sport. It's $25 is.
And we'll have like we played Lindenwood on Wednesday. Okay, I got some buddies there. I'm not saying anything negative about Lindenwood.
Yeah.
Hell, they almost beat us. Friday, went to 4 sets and went overtime in the fourth set. So not going to say anything bad about them, but that is not a name brand school. That's not a ranked opponent.
Yeah.
It came into our gym on a Wednesday, and we had over 5,000 people there,
Oh my
and it
God.
it just baffles me. Like I'm so grateful that people choose to support us, but we have such an obligation then to this community to take every game seriously and to put on a show for them because they spend their money to come watch us, and it's flattering and it's still hard for me to wrap my mind around
Yeah.
sometimes.
I bet. And one of the unique things about at UH, sometimes during your exhibition season comes along, you guys go to unique places. Last year I think when I was talking to Chaz, you guys got to go to Japan. How was that experience?
It was incredible. Super grateful for that, just to play in a different country. Japan has some great fans as well. And just to meet the people, we're talking with those people and getting to see what their life is like. And it's a great opportunity. And I also think, if I went to Japan by myself, you know, I wouldn't really know where to start with things to do. But,
Yeah.
when you go as a team with that, there's benefits to you get to do
Mm-hmm.
something you couldn't normally do otherwise. Like we went to Scuba, which is a university in Japan. They're the national champions of the university club teams in Japan. So they don't have an NCAA right now,
Mm-hmm.
but my understanding they're trying to get one. And we played the equivalent of Japan's NCAA champs.
Yeah.
So we went to Scuba, which is where the city is. It's a medium-sized metropolitan area outside of Tokyo. And like we got to meet the mayor of the city. We got to do a bunch of cool stuff. We got to interact with our Japanese alumni community in Japan. And it just provided a opportunity and experience that if I weren't on this team or a member of this program, I never would have had.
Yeah.
So it was really fun.
Nice. And now, and I understand you also played a pro team over there as well?
Yeah, we played Sakai. That's the team that Cole Hoagland plays for. Their foreigners are the Sharon, and the Argentinian guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, outside.
Yeah, he's an outside. Luciano, and the name escapes me, but he is a good outside hitter.
Yeah, yeah. So they played like their B team slash C team, and they annihilated us. But it was fun.
Was the level that different? Like just those guys were at a different level than anything you see at a college level?
Technically, for sure.
Yeah.
Like from a fundamentals point of view, yeah. I mean, if you look at some of us play, like our funda I mean, if you watch me pepper. you'd be like, there's no way this guy's a Division I volleyball player. Like this guy's just everything about him just screams horrible fundamentals. Over there, every single player, incredible fundamentals,
Yeah.
amazing arm swings, amazing ball control. It's just so pretty, clean, and fast. And they play with grit too.
Yeah.
So it was fun to play against. It was a lot of
Nice.
fun.
And then speaking of, the skills, the passing and everything like that, when you're with the Austrian team, over there, the European ball, they seem to focus on, they don't have the specialties like we focus on here on the States side, and over there, middle better be ready to pass a ball, do everything
Yeah.
like that. Did you, when you were practicing that, where you're like, hey, I don't do this passing stuff back home?
Yeah, and I got a lot of crap from my teammates for being so bad at it. But it's that wasn't, when we spoke about how I got better, I think a lot of that is credit to the national team because you do two practices a day.
Yeah.
One is no jumping and it's all technical. It's just
Wow.
work. They have boxes and you're doing reception drills, just the arm swing drills, no jumping. So it's very easy on the body, but you still get to focus on your technique. And then the later practice is 6 versus 6. So um, that really, I still need a lot of work on it, but it definitely made me a lot better at those skills.
Wow. So far, let's talk about the season. How's the season going for you guys?
It's been good, except for a loss to Stanford, a very, very good Stanford team. It's been fun. It's good. We've got, I think, one of the most talented and competitive teams we've had in a long time. So it's been a pleasure to play with such talented players.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
And
And
how about that BYU match? That must have been like just like electricity must have been in the air that one.
yeah, so I'll say this, if you take the average age of one of the fans at our games, you're looking, 40s, 50.
Yeah.
And they're there to see a lot of times good volleyball, versus if you go to Muncie, Long Beach, BYU, they're not really there to see good volleyball. They're there to because it's the only event in town and they got
Yeah.
nothing better to do. They're there to get in your ear and get in your head
Oh
and talk
wow.
some crap. So I will say like BYU's gym is by far the hardest gym I've ever had to play in. Uh the the ball travels differently because of the altitude.
It really has an effect on it.
I thought to myself like that's total BS.
Yeah.
So there's two things that make it differently. The amount of room you have to serve is very short
Oh.
because the seat's right behind it and they have these mats. So the amount of room you have to approach for your serve is shortened and the ball totally travels differently. So we missed a ton of serves our first night and the second night we were kind of just, lollipopping it in for
Yeah.
most of the night. So and then between that and the fans they have there, who are very well orchestrated and committed, it was by far the hardest gym I've ever had
Oh
to play in.
wow. Was it
Yeah,
nice to see Keone though?
it was great. Keone and Noah Hain, and some other guys who I've gotten to know. It was great. It was great to see him. My mom came. She made
Oh nice.
Keone his favorite muffins. So it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we got the win,
Yeah.
but at the same time, the little part of me, was still cheering for him
Yeah.
because when when we were coming off the bench, our junior year or our sophomore year when we were getting reps, we were cheering for each other so hard. So, it felt a little weird, playing against him, but it was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Oh man. And then I also was chatting with Chaz, and he said he was there behind the bench at you got at
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, it was great seeing him.
Oh,
He's
that's
he's
good.
an amazing guy. A lot of love for that guy. He's awesome and he's crushing it professionally now. So he's been inspiration to me and will continue to be one.
Nice. And now, one of the unique things with college is you guys have the NIL in place now. How's that going? Have you guys, have you figured it out, sort of, how to make some money out of it at least?
Yeah, yeah, we actually do very well. We're very fortunate here in Hawaii. There's no pro sports, so the university sports get a lot of attention and support from the local communities and the local business owners. And if you're a business owner in Hawaii, there's not a ton of stuff you can really support because there's no pro sports teams. So the university teams get a lot of the funds from the people here, and that kind of goes into our collective and goes to our team. Um, and because of the attention we get from the fans and our success, being one of the better sports teams on the island, we naturally kind of attract some of those NIL deals.
Yeah, nice. And now, when it comes to game time, do you have any rituals? What's your sort of, do you have a pregame meal? Do you need to take a nap?
Yeah, so pregame before every game, I do the same thing. I've been doing for a couple of years. I'll grab lunch, whether it's Jersey Mike's, Earl, my favorite sandwich place on the island is phenomenal, or just some other type of quick plate lunch, and then I'll go grab coffee and play chess. So I load up on caffeine and I'll play chess with either my teammate Alex, Matthew, or used to be Jakob, and then that's about it. Show up and try to play.
Ah, nice. And now, something I've noticed is that, the college players I've talked to, coming from club, they really never paid attention to, what they're eating or anything like that. Did you, is that something that's emphasized there at UH is making sure you guys, get the right, calories before the game, after practice, or you sort of on your own?
Not really. Yeah, not really. I'm sure there's some schools out there with more resources
Yeah.
that might get into that. We don't. I mean, we've got all we need to be successful,
Yeah.
but you know, I will say one of the nice things about this program is they treat you like adults. You're gonna get out of it what you put into it, and
Yeah.
that's pretty transparent. And if you're not given enough, then they're gonna get rid of you and replace you with someone who will, because a lot of
That's,
people want to play for Hawaii.
yeah.
And I think you know, we're very grateful for that because it forces you to be better. So if
Right.
you're not taking care of your body, you're not eating the way you should be, you're not making the decisions you should be making,
Yeah.
well, okay, then we'll get rid of you. So
And
it's
that's
pretty,
like the adult world. You
yeah,
gotta, nothing's handed to you.
exactly. So we don't get a ton of that, but we don't lose any sleep over it either.
Nice. And now, on the team, who's the joker? Who's the one that's going to crack the tension that you have on your team this year?
That's a tough one. I would say Matthew Wheels is pretty funny, the libero. Um, he's up there. Victor Lowe is up there. So both freshmen, they don't play a whole lot, but
Yeah.
they'll say some funny stuff, and at the right time,
All
they'll get a
right.
chuckle.
And now, for you, if you have a couple of bad plays, what's your sort of reset? What do you do to, sort of clear your mind and, refocus?
I I like to think of just, you know, like I'm probably not the right person to ask this to because this probably isn't the right response. Because some of my teammates, volleyball is everything,
Yeah.
and it's all they care about. It's all they love. And one of the freeing things for me, if I make a mistake, it's like I really like don't care. Like I
Well,
the world,
that's not a wrong answer though. It's washes off and you're just ready to go again.
I'm not, playing in the Olympics or anything, and I find the value in my life comes from the people in my life and who I surround myself with.
Yeah.
It's not what's my hitting percentage against this team.
Right.
Like, well, obviously, would I like to play good when the team needs me to play good? For sure.
Yeah.
And would it suck a whole lot more if I have a bad night against a good team? Yeah, definitely. Would it feel good? No. But at the end of the day, I have so much gratitude to even be playing,
Yeah.
um, that I really don't lose a whole lot of sleep over it if I'm not playing well.
Yeah.
And also, we have three very good middles on our team this year, so I wouldn't be playing bad for long. Hopefully, they would be smart enough to sub me out. So,
There you go.
Yeah.
Uh, Now last season, you guys got thrown a curveball when Spyros went down. What was that? What was that whole? How did it all happen?
So I actually was in the bathroom when it happened.
Oh shoot!
Uh, so one of the perks of being middle is if you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the game, you have enough time to. So I came out of the bathroom and the stand was drop dead silent, like drop dead silent. So I knew something was going on. I walk out of the tunnel back to the bench and I see Spirits on the floor. I'm like, what the heck just happened? So after he went down, thankfully we won that game. Not that it really, not that we accomplished
Yeah,
anything meaningful to us at the end of the year anyway. We didn't make the tournament. But after he went down, it was kind of like, that's one of the best players in the country.
right.
And we kind of had this revolving door of three outsides after that. We had three guys who were good at different things. And, they're, if one was playing bad, you'd put the other one in and pray that they play better. So it had we kind of just had a lot more volatility in that position.
Yeah,
And the one thing I will say, he was an excellent leader. You
yeah,
know, there were times where I didn't necessarily agree with his leadership style. Um, but the second we lost it, I realized how spot on he was, how much we needed what he provided,
yeah,
how crucial of an asset he is. You know, he he had the credibility being
yeah,
such an amazing player that if he told you to do something, you did it. Even if you didn't think it needed to be said,
yeah,
you know, you shut up and you do what he tells you to do. He's one of the best players in the country. So losing that was tough. And we didn't have anyone who had the all-star resume
yeah,
anymore. That was kind of barking orders. So that was a tough loss for us. Guillermo obviously had a incredible career. He
yeah.
was only in three rotations, so we didn't have anyone else on the court the whole time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you didn't have that, six rotation leader
Louis
that was.
Keone and what was the other outside fight? Chaz. Oh, okay, Chaz. Yeah, but he wasn't on the court all the time. So Alakai, first year starter, me, first year starter, Alei, first year starter, Tread, first year starter.
Yeah,
No one really kind of had the agency, I'll say, to command a team in the capacity that Spiros commanded us.
right. You
So
lost that
that,
street cred. Nobody had that, that
yeah,
resume. Yeah,
nobody had that aura, dare I say, to tell you to do something, and whether you agreed with it or not, you just shut up and did it like he
right.
did.
Yeah,
So that was a huge asset that we lost in. Um, you know, do I think we would have won with him? I think we would have been in the finals.
yeah,
Do I think we didn't make the finals because we didn't have him? No, I think we didn't make the tournament because we lost games to CSUN, we lost games to San Diego, we lost a game to Loyola that we should have won.
yeah,
And we could and should have won those with or without Spiros, and that's why I think we didn't make the tournament. So,
yep,
as much as I think having him would have helped us, I don't think our you know downfall last year was because we didn't have him.
yep. All
So.
right. And now, when it comes to blocking, what are some things that helped you become a better blocker that, you could share with, those players that are, in the high school right now?
I think defense is really a mindset thing. It's pretty relentless. What are you willing to do to dig a ball? What are you willing to do to touch the ball? I see a lot of blockers kind of give up. Um, and I had a player I played with who said, it's okay to be late, but you can't really be wrong. And it depends on who you're matched up with in the middle. There's guys who I'm going to play this year or who I have played where the scouting report is good pass, you're going to commit with this guy. And if they set the pin, so be it. But we just want you to cover your guy.
Yeah,
And you have to do that then. But other than that, I think you have to put yourself in a position to touch the ball. And if you commit on the middle, who's not that good, and they set the pin, well, you just took yourself out of the play.
yeah,
So I've always been a big advocate for read blocking. And being a read blocker still means that there's times to commit. You know, on the perfect pass at the first point of the game, they're a whole lot more likely to go to the middle than on a perfect pass in deuce when Halir Heno is in the front row. Like
Yeah.
obviously, at the end of the game, they're going to start going to their go-to guys. That's just an example. But you know, you can be in a read, is what it's called when you're reading and you're
Hmm.
not. You can be in a read and still commit throughout the game. So um, I don't know if that makes any
Yeah,
sense
no,
and
it does. It's good.
going on a tangent, but yeah,
And
that's
uh, and now, granted, the coaches are never probably going to see this podcast. What drill do you hate the most that they run? And let me just preface that with, Chaz, and I think even Spyros, when they were on, they said they hate the running. Milan just makes you guys run.
yeah. So it's not it's only in the warm up that he makes you run. And it's it's not like it's like, okay, get on the line, we're doing sprints.
Yeah,
It's the drills, the ball control drills that he has us doing are so cardio intensive. There's just so much running in the drills. And the theory behind it, and Milan is hands down, I think, one of the best coaches in the world. He's coached more gold medalists than NCAA champions. Like he knows his stuff.
yeah,
Uh, he's got books out. He's got a master's in electrical engineering. Like this is a very, very smart man. So his drills at the beginning of practice, they make you play the ball, whether it's with your platform or with your hands or with your, attack
yeah.
in an uncomfortable position. So it makes you get comfortable being in uncomfortable positions.
Makes sense.
The theory is then as the game slows down and we have time in between the points, you should be even more comfortable.
Right.
So, it's you learn to control an uncontrolled environment versus like if I see hitting lines, like that's a controlled environment. That's the stupidest thing ever. You know,
Yeah,
why not do something in an uncontrolled environment so that when I am in a controlled environment, it should be easy.
yeah.
So,
Excellent. All
yeah.
right.
So those starting drills where the environment's pretty uncontrolled, there's a lot of running, and I totally see you. We call them Milan drills, is what we call them.
Okay.
But they're literally named after him, and
Yeah.
any UH alum that has played with him knows how intense Milan drills are.
All right. And now, one of the nice things about being in Hawaii is you probably can play beach year round, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And do you
Yeah.
take advantage of that?
No, not in the spring at all. In the fall, I'll play some beach now and then. There's some big tournaments out here.
Yeah,
Um, but once indoors starts, it's
it's
just
all in.
yeah, and you really don't have the physical capacity. Division I sports is rigorous,
Yep.
and I think if you're really committed to your team, any extra energy you have should be directed towards your team's your actual sport.
Yeah.
Um, but in the fall, of course, we'll play, when things are a little slower, we will, but in the spring, it's all indoor for sure.
Do you enjoy the beach side of things?
Yeah, yeah, not surfing, but love to go. It's not like people think it is,
Yeah.
you know, where every day I'm sitting out in the sun. It's more like on weekends, like today I'm at the beach, but
Yeah.
other than that, it's a pretty normal school experience.
Nice. And now, looking back, since you started playing volleyball, is there a particular person or coach that really is, been your mentor that's really who's helped you the most to get you where you are from a volleyball standpoint?
Oh, there's too many people. Uh, I think Milan. Milan connected me with the national team in Austria. And I mean, I obviously would like to thank like my high school coaches, my club coaches,
Yeah.
Coach Webb from Vanguard. But I think at the end of it, Milan is responsible for the majority of the development. I just as easily could have gone to another school that didn't have a great coach,
Yeah.
then I would have been a horrible volleyball. I would have been a horrible Division I volleyball player my whole life. I never would have came off the bench.
Right.
But Milan, made me the player I am, and that's all thanks to him.
Yeah.
So
There we go. Nice.
I'd have to say him.
All right, that works. And now, when I had Cole on, you gave me some questions. And let me
Yeah.
flip, a couple of them towards you. Maybe they may make sense or not. But, one of the questions you asked was, did Cole ever get kicked out of Charlie's van? What van do you ride in nowadays?
I ride in Milan's van. So I've floated around through a couple of vans, but I'm in Milan's van now. I think he picked me. I think he likes me a little bit. So
There we go. And then I got a question from Keone. He says, he said to ask you, what's the meaning behind you calling him Pookie?
um so this is a funny one. So Keone, you know, he's a good looking guy. He gets a lot of attention from a lot of people. And every once in a while, he indulges in some of it. And he had this girl that, he entertained for a little while, and she called him Pookie. And following, their little fling for a little bit, I actually liked the girl for a while, and I was, she and I dated for a couple of months after, and she called me Pookie.
Oh, God.
And like not seriously,
Right.
jokingly. She
Yes.
didn't call either of us it seriously. And so me and Keone were just like, screw this girl, let's be each other's Pookies as a joke. So that's kind of the background to it.
There we go. All right. So now I got a fun question. What is, I had Eric showed you on a while ago, and him and Taylor have this thing. What's the toughest position in volleyball? So, Kurt, what is the toughest position in volleyball? I'm guessing I already know the answer.
Definitely not opposite.
Nope.
I think that's the easiest. And
Yep.
then I think libero's easiest after that. I think here's what I'll say. I think if you're trying to play Division I volleyball, middle is the easiest position to go play Division I volleyball at. You can be a horrible, horrible volleyball player, but be a good middle. And I'm talking like horrible fundamentals, all that. So I think in that sense, middle's not the hardest. But to be a good middle, I think that's the hardest position. To be like a really, really good middle. And that's just because of blocking. I think
Yep.
read blocking is the hardest skill to have in volleyball to really perfect and be a really good and efficient blocker. Um, and now I'll say this, like I want to follow this up. I'm gonna get some backlash for this. I think to be a good outside, you have to be good at a lot of things, and that makes it harder to be a good outside. But to master those skills at outside, passing and hitting, I think you don't need the same skill set. You need to be a really good middle, which is read blocking. And I think that is the hardest skill in volleyball. I think to be a very, very efficient uh middle blocker, that is the hardest skill, I think. What
All
did they
right.
say? Just out of
Oh,
curiosity.
I basically the two are setters or middles. Middles are always because you really are pushed around everywhere. You're expected to get every block. You seldom get, you run every time to get, to get set, but you rarely get set because there's so much out of system. And then the easiest is everyone either says the right side or the libero. And I had Mason Briggs on, and he picked Mason said the libero is the hardest position, of course, because he's a libero. And he made a valid point. He said, I can only do one thing, and that's pass. If I have a bad pass, I can't make it up by blocking. I can't make it up by hitting. It's like, all right, we'll give you that. But I think,
Yeah,
it's setters
yeah,
or middle.
that's true. That's fair.
And now away from the court, what are some of the things you like to do? When you have time,
Uh,
because you're also working too, right?
yeah, so really all I do is work. Um, and that's about it. So I work for Bank of Hawaii. Um, Other than that, I really don't have a whole lot of time. I work about 25 hours a week. I go to my classes. Um, Between that and volleyball, I don't have a ton of free time. I like to spend it
That's
with my family, my girlfriend, she's
yeah,
great.
nice.
Um, that's about it though.
That is you. That's a heavy load right there. You know, you're working,
Yeah.
playing ball, and going to college. That's, dude. Yeah, you don't have much free time after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shoot. And now, when you're all done school, do you think you'll stay on the island or come back to the mainland?
That's an interesting question. I think Hawaii is my home, and you know, I may be too white to say that, and that might upset some local people, but just because of the support I've had from the community here and the relationships I've built here, this place means more to me than anywhere else. So,
Yeah. Well, like you said, you haven't been off the island for 3 years, really.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know. Yeah. And then the other unique thing with going to UH is your travel schedule. When you guys go on road trips, it's a long road trip, isn't
yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up.
it?
I'd like to talk about that. So this conference realignment stuff with all these schools in the West Coast complaining about, oh, I got to play in the Big Ten now. I do not want to hear it. Like, y'all are chartering planes. No, like I'm playing on the East Coast hopefully twice this year.
Yeah, I saw
I
you
did
guys played in the Carolinas last
a
week or
week-long
something.
trip in the Carolinas, playing against schools most people probably haven't heard of. And yeah, so when I heard this conference realignment stuff come out and other schools were complaining about, oh, what a burden it is for their athletes, I just started laughing. Like, get real. I mean, you guys are so fortunate and privileged and lucky to have a sport. And like, sure, yeah, it's not ideal to have to travel, but it's totally manageable. And these people complaining are just looking for another thing to whine about.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the traveling's tough, obviously, but it is what it is. And anyone who's serious about their priorities can handle it without it being a sweat.
Yeah. Well, and the other knock on it too is, you're what, 6'9", 6'8"? Traveling
Yeah.
on long air, long flights is not a fun thing.
Yeah, it's not ideal, like I said, but like I'm 22-year-old broke college kid, so any free travel is great travel,
Yep.
and I'm not taking it for granted.
Excellent. All right, Kurt. Well, hey, you survived. But before I let you go, like with past guests, I look for you to recommend somebody in your volleyball circle that would have a good story and we should come on and have a chat.
I want in the volleyball circle. Have you had Keone yet?
I had Keone. Yep.
Okay, I gotta watch that one then. I gotta see what he said. You had Hog, you had Chaz, Jakob.
Okay. All right.
I would do Jakob. That guy is a fountain of knowledge. He's played A1 Italy. He plays in Norway with one of the,
He's a setter, right? Or he was your
yeah,
setter. Yep.
setter. He's a lefty setter
Oh,
who I
okay.
think changed the way, in some capacity, how college volleyball is being played with the setter taking on an offensive role. It's not the first time we've seen it, but he he did it better than arguably anyone else. And then in Norway, he plays with one of the best middles in the world, who plays in the Polish First League.
Oh, okay.
And he also went to a volleyball boarding school
Oh,
called Top Volley Norway. So that's where the Mole clan went. I think there's like four or five of them. So Hendrik Mole, Andy Mole, Christian Sorum. So those are the beach volleyball legends. Hendrik Mole, a UH alumni. So I'd have him on. He can speak about a lot of things pro. He played behind DeJeco. And yeah, I don't want to explain too much because I hope you have him on, but
all
he
right.
can talk about a whole lot and he's a great guy.
All right. Well, we'll get him on then. We'll get you to twist his arm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, Barry.